As a startup founder, what is your take? Should you be hustling, or there should be a balance between work life? There would be something like some investors will be, you have pitched so many, you took efforts to build that slide and everything, and then they were like, Hi Emma, how are you?
Hey Tammy, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. Like, I'll just share this one thing. I was planning to start a podcast and I was like, whom should I DM? And I saw your post about precision sports and I saw your bites that they were asking, are you planning for expansion? And I was like, oh yeah, I know Emma and she's doing really good. So I was like, should I text her a cold DM? And I did. Literally, I woke up, I texted you and you said yes.
Of course.
I was like, shit. Okay, now I have to plan everything because I wasn't expecting any response at all because like it was just a cold DM, and here we are shooting the podcast.
I know, I wouldn't say it's super cold since we still, we're in the same space. We met each other kind of at the lecture.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, was that months ago? Probably more than a year ago now.
I graduated.
It's crazy,
yeah. So
long time now, yeah.
It's been a while. I will start with, I know you as the founder of Precision Sport and a software developer.
Yeah.
So would you like to add some introduction to yourself, like a short intro?
Yeah, so I'm the founder, CEO, and CTO of Precision Sports Technology. So we're a software startup developing a platform for real-time feedback and analysis on exercise technique. So to reduce risk of injury, maximize performance, and increase participation in strength conditioning and physiotherapy. So my background professionally is mostly in technology. So I did my bachelor's in computer science and IT here at the University of Galway. I worked as a software engineer for a few years with the huge American company. Got my experience there, but my main passion is in weightlifting and fitness. So I do weightlifting competitively. I'm a qualified personal trainer. So, the gym is very much my safe space where I get huge enjoyment in my life. During my final year project in university, I was thinking of the problems that I was facing in the gym, seeing the issues, like looking at technique in the mirror. I thought, well, I've done a personal training course. I know how to fix my technique, but I know most people don't. They pay for a coach, or they're sending their coach videos, or they're giving up on their exercises, or worst case, actually injuring themselves. Yeah. So I thought, well, surely technology can help with this problem. And that's where it all started, really.
Did you decided that you have to start a business since a long time, or you were like, it just came to your mind and then you started?
See, my father owned a business, and when I was working with him, I thought, oh, I don't like business. I was like, I loved science instead. I love video games. I was like, oh, business is boring. It's not for me. But when I was doing my studies then, and then came up with this idea, it was like compulsive. I was like, I have to do something about this. I said, I need to be the person to get this out there. This is kind of like my calling. So during my thesis, I put it together. My professor said during the review, they said, Emma, you've put some business cases in here. Why don't you start a business from this? And I thought, well, I would love to, but I want to get some industry experience. I want to, live my life and maybe travel a bit and to save some money, because I knew once I started my own business, I wouldn't have an income.
Yeah, so that's definitely right. You are into your business since, I don't know, 1-2 years, and then you maybe start making some profits or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, because I wrote the first line of code for this back at the end of 2017, start of 2018 with the final year project, and then I graduated in 2018. So I was working with the multinational company then until late 2021. So it was kind of 3 years as like a side hustle, and then I went full time in the end of 2021. But it was 18 months then until I could start paying myself an income again.
Okay.
So I had to last 18 months just on like savings or some grants and things like that. So it's definitely a challenge.
So like, you were working part-time on this project?
Yeah, there's like evenings, weekends, writing some code.
Nights and weekends.
Yeah.
Okay. And then were you waiting until, okay, I'll hit this mark from the business income and then I'll quit my job? Or
So the business wasn't generating any income until earlier this year. It's very much a deep tech product that we're building. So a lot of data to go in, a lot of engineering hours. So the kind of pivot point then to actually quit my job was through Enterprise Ireland. So they do an early stage program for people just with a business idea. So you can submit your idea and they pick usually about 14, 15 people every year just from the Galway Mayo region. And every month you get €2,500 as a tax-free stipend. So you can work on your business. And what they do as well is they bring you through how to research a market opportunity, how to develop a business plan, how to do financials, which is all the stuff I had no idea about because, I just knew code. I was like, okay, I've written some code. Now how do you make a business from this? So that was really the the step point there. Let's say it's okay, I have this kind of a cushion of a few months of a grant. Now I can quit my job and go full time on this.
Full time on this, yeah. Like how long did it take to build a prototype or some viable product which you can roll in the market and then you can say, oh, that's the product?
I mean, yeah, it takes like it's a lot of iterations and time, because for our target market, which is physiotherapists and strength coaches, they need to have the proof that it's accurate and reliable. Because you see a lot of other motion capture software out there that's not particularly accurate. Like Google have a great open source platform called OpenPose. Meta have their own version, but it's not to the degree of accuracy and speed that these professionals require. So what we had to do first was make sure that the algorithm we're using for tracking the body is super accurate. So that was really our first prototype, our first MVP. So it was only at the end of 2022 then I kind of have something like that ready. So I've been nearly a full year on the business, but I was kind of a one-woman operation. I was doing the business plan. I was trying to get some investors, building the product as well, of course. So during that summer, I managed to get 2 student interns from the University of Galway here. Cool, yeah. So both computer science. So I was able to direct them on, okay, this is our front end, the database, the back end. So they built up a lot of that, from scratch as well. So it was only at that time then that we had a prototype that we could test with sports science universities. So the standard for comparing the technology is we have our system. It just runs on an iPhone or iPad. You don't need any wearables or sensors because we're using 3D depth scanning in the device. But the gold standard system is Vicon and Qualisys. They're the big brands where it takes up a whole huge laboratory space. You have like 8 to 12 cameras in the room. You have to strip down to your underwear. You get all these reflective dots put on your body, and it picks up those dots. So we had to compare how accurate is our body tracking compared to that system. But that one takes hours to set up and sometimes weeks to get the analysis from. You need a technician to operate it. It's super expensive. So the goal for our product is to take the accuracy and the data quality of that motion capture system, but bring it into your pocket, into your hand. So that was the prototype. But of course, the minimum sellable product then is, okay, what is something that a physiotherapist or coach would say, great, I want to pay for this, I'll take this. So it was only January this year we actually launched, and we got our first paying customers in February. Then
that's cool. So it's more oriented towards the physio and not someone like me who wants to do the gym but is a beginner. Can I use the app just to see the posture and everything, or
so that's the goal eventually. So it's all this iteration process. So the app Kinetic IQ that's on the App Store right now, you can download it and use it, but when you record your exercise, you get key information like your range of motion, your balance, the speed of the movement. You'll get figures on that, but as a day-to-day gym person, you probably won't get any insights from that. Whereas a professional, they'll know, okay, you were 5% leaning more towards your right. Here is a compensatory exercise to fix this imbalance, or it might be something that's totally fine, but it's up to them to decide. And then so that's version 1 we have out now. Version 2 later this year. This will allow the clients of the practitioner, so the physio patient, the athlete, that they can record their own movements, and remotely the coach can know, okay, they did all their exercises, but these 4 sets, these ones were unusual. Maybe I should intervene with these. And then we're going to take all that data set to build out V3, which is the goal for the real-time feedback, so that anyone who goes to the gym or doing a rehab program at home, they can get that real-time insight. But, takes a lot of time, data, money. So we're saying, right, what is the next step that we can do to bring the business further?
Baby step, one step at a time.
Exactly, yes.
Well, I started a business as well. It's a development company.
Great.
But yeah, so you mentioned about hiring people. You hired interns, and then I think you have 10 employees, around 10. You spoke in some interviews. So how did you go from 2 interns to 10, and then managing them as well as few hiring mistakes, and if you could just, maybe it's kind of like elder sister guiding me, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the growth has been, it's very different at the different stages. I mean, now it's okay, we have 2 kind of different units in the business, let's say. So there's the engineering area, which I'm still very much the lead over. We have 7 engineers between full-time and some part-time. And then the business side, we have a CCO, a COO, and a business development manager in the UK. So they try to keep a lot of track on our sales pipeline, all the customer demos, keeping that side moving along. And then the engineering is still very much under me. So at least that way I've now been able to delegate a bit more on the commercial side. But to actually get to this stage, we had 2 interns, and then we had to prove that our prototype was good so that we get to the next stage with investors. They say, okay, the technology does work. Now build a product that you can actually sell. So at the start of 2023, it was just myself and the 2 interns because they returned for their 8-month work placement. But then mid 2023, we brought our chief commercial officer on board full time. Then we started bringing in some data analysts and data engineers. And then the COO came on then at the end of 2023. So over the space of, that 1 year, we went from 1 on like January 1, and then the interns started back the second week of January. Then by the end of the year, we had like 9, 10 full-time people. So hiring has actually we've been really lucky, I think, in terms of how our hiring has gone so far. We've had made 1 or 2 mistakes, and that's been a big challenge for me personally in trying to, deliver critical feedback to people. I tend to be super non-confrontational. I always try to please people. So saying to people, you're not doing your work good enough, this relationship isn't working, especially when I know that we're a startup, we can't pay really great salaries like Amazon or Microsoft can. So I always feel like I owe people, but at the same time, if a job needs to be done, they can't slow down the whole company if they're not competent. So that was a big learning curve for me.
How did you overcome that?
It was trying to just put down, for me, like as an introvert, I had to really put down on paper, okay, what should the outcome of this be? It's like, okay, if I'm not going to extend their contract, or if we need to go through a formal dismissal process, what is the outcome I want? How can I explain to them with key evidence why this isn't working out? So it's very much having that plan and then trying to create an environment where they could take that feedback. And then afterwards, the thought of it is always far worse than the consequences afterwards. Because I know that if that person stayed on, it's a drain on resources, not just on cash, but on other people's energy. Because, there was one person in particular where the other team, the rest of the people on the team weren't working well with them. And I didn't know until after that person left the company that the other people here were struggling with them. And so I've said to them, look, I need that communication because it would have made it easier for me to go through this process with them if I knew the rest of the team wasn't enjoying working with them.
Definitely. It's kind of like if someone slacks behind, then someone else has to take up the work. And
exactly. And they don't feel appreciated then.
Also, you mentioned about delegation. So in the YouTube or anything, it's most of the time is being taken by the editing itself. And when I sit down and do the editing, I was like, I am the one who can do it better. No one else can just, do it the same way as I want to. So how, like, was there something like that as well for you? Like, I am the one who can write code this way and this is so I can do it much better. And then that thought came in. How did you overcome that and started delegating without having that brain energy? Like, I have dedicated this, but I'm not sure if I could trust that person or something like that.
Oh, it's still a constant struggle because even though now I'm not writing code, like I'm helping the engineers with the overall design, doing some code reviews, testing, all that process. So it's okay. I'm not writing code. I have that delegated, which is great. But still now we're growing and there's so much work that I've done, like everything end to end. Like I've done, product wireframes. I've written the code. I've done the business plan, the financials, pitching to investors, building out marketing strategies. It's okay. Now we have other people on the team that can do this. It's still a huge challenge for me at times to say, right, I have to just try and teach this person to do this and ask them to do it. Even now I feel like, oh, I shouldn't ask them, they're busy, even though I probably have like 3 times more work that I'm trying to get through. So definitely is still a struggle. And what I find is very good for this is working with mentors and advisors because, I talk to them about how my week is going or what are the key goals. And they say, wait, are you doing this or someone else in the business? Like, oh, well, I'm doing it. It's like, well, why isn't this person doing it? It's like, well, yeah, maybe they probably should. And so we'd go through, okay, well, this is what the COO does at this stage. This is what the CEO, this is what the CEO, CTO, this is how the role should be delegated. So I'm saying, right, I need to take this particular work item, make sure this person, at least tries it, and then I can give the feedback. But that's still a learning journey for me, that if they do something and it's not the way I want them to do it, I have to think, okay, how can I give this feedback in a positive way? So it's still it's an ongoing challenge, and I'm sure that it'll just take different shapes as the business evolves.
Rather than giving the feedback, I'll do it myself, something like that.
Yeah, that's still an attitude I'm trying to kill.
Yeah, that happens. So is there, like you said, you had a lot of things to do yourself. So is there any, as a startup founder, what is your take? Should you be hustling, or there should be a balance between work life balance, kind of?
Oh, work-life balance is like one of the most important things, honestly, because you see the movies, you hear the stories of people working like 80, 90 hours a week. Like, it's not sustainable. Maybe if you had like a very specific deadline and that was for 1 or 2 weeks, maybe. But me, like, I sleep 7 hours a night. I work out every day. I eat good food. I think having a really strong discipline around looking after your physical body makes all the difference when you're trying to focus on your work. So if I say, okay, I'm only at my computer maybe like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Yes, I'm still doing some stuff on my phone. If I'm on the go, having dinner, like, I'm looking at my phone for work stuff. But for those 10 hours, I'm at my laptop, like, actively working. Like, it's super productive, super focused. And that's because I have the energy from good sleep, good exercise, and taking an hour or two every evening if I can, just to, like, have dinner with my partner, or, go for a walk, things like that. There's so many things that you can do that are small that make the difference. Like, for me, even like simple stuff I never really thought of before COVID. Like, I love astronomy and stargazing, following the planets. I love taking care of like house plants and things. I have a cat. Those like small things, kind of connecting with nature. That's super important for me to just shut off from the business, maybe put my phone away for half an hour. Say, look, whatever happens in that half an hour, it's fine. Yeah, I need to chill out a bit.
Yeah, even cats are like anxiety buster or something like that.
Oh, for sure. It's like when they vibrate, it's like some chemical that like calms you down. Yeah.
It's so fun, but they have this attitude that they are the center of attraction.
Oh, they're the boss. Yeah.
They're the boss. Doesn't matter who you are. That's right. Is so for being productive, is there, you block few times as a deep work session, or is it Pomodoro, or is there any technique which you use to just be productive? Or
yeah, deep work time is definitely very difficult to find. The way I try to like work out at least my day is I have an open calendar where if there's an external meeting I want to take, like an investor or a partner or something, I send the link and they can book a time. So I'm not sending back and forth like 5 emails saying, oh, are you free at 2? And actually, no, I'm not free at 2. How about Thursdays? That's very difficult. So I just, if someone's looking for a meeting, give them the link, and then I know at least in 4 hours in advance when my meetings are. So I just have a to-do list on my, like, I use Microsoft OneNote for my personal notes, and I use Notion with my whole team. Then it's amazing product.
Notion,
I could not live without Notion.
Yes.
Because we do all our sprint planning, we do our feature designs, all our task management, market research, everything goes in Notion. It's just one search. Amazing. But for myself, like, I just have my to-do list of the day. No, okay, this is top priority. If I have 30 minutes between these meetings, I'll do this item. But if I know it's a longer task, like, for example, one of the tasks that takes the most like brain focus for me recently is the fundraising round with the capitalization table. So, if one investor put in 10,000 to put in 50,000, but they had a discount, or if it's Enterprise Ireland, we're giving the staff some shares. How does that actually turn out in an Excel spreadsheet that's 50 lines long, and someone gets 124 shares, someone's getting 260, and then that all goes to the solicitor. You have to read through 90 pages of legal documentation. I mean, that stuff that takes deep work time, like an hour or two to get into that focus. Like, that was something I knew I had to hand off code very early on, because I didn't have 2 or 3 hour blocks to write code. And you can't write code in half an hour segments.
No.
You're just about getting in the zone. So you take some like time to get in the zone, understand, okay, this is the problem, running through debugging, running through the flow. Only then after like 2 hours, you start like, okay, I'm actually like getting through some code. So coding is very difficult to do in short bursts, which is, I knew early on, okay, if I get interns to write the code, I can do the stuff that I know I can context switch quickly, like emails, meetings, doing up marketing stuff, applying for grants, all these other things that don't take a huge amount of time, but a lot of context switching and high focus.
That's cool. With the investors, is it like, how is it? Is it easy? Because most of them say don't go for the investors if you can't, if you can. But I assume you have like few on board. So how did that go, and how is your experience? And yeah.
I mean, raising investment was a necessity for us because we're a deep tech platform. There's a lot of development to go into it. Something I knew that we couldn't do as a small team. I mean, it's great if you have the financial resources to build a full product yourself and not take on investors or your customers early on. That is probably the best way because you own most of the company, you have the highest level of control. But for certain kinds of products and technology, like medical devices, you have to take on external money.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off in terms of control, but also speed as well. Because if you're a team of 3 people, you're trying to build a product, or if you take in money and you can have a team of 10 people,
Yeah.
well, obviously you're going to go much faster, and that needs to be considered as well if you're in a new emerging technology space. Like for us, mobile motion capture and motion capture devices are popping up everywhere, and we need to make sure that we're going to be the first and
mover,
best
yeah.
to like nail some of the big teams. There's some like wearable tech, there's some that you need 2 phones for, some that all the processing is done in the cloud, so it's not as quick. So we know, okay, this is our strategy. I had to spend a lot of time building out, okay, over 5 years, like investors want to see a 5-year financial projection, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think of, but they want to see that you can methodically work back. Okay, if I raise 500,000 this year, what stage will that get me to for like how far the product will be, how many customers, but also, okay, if I only have 500,000, how many engineers can I hire? How many conferences can I go to? So you have to work back from that. But of course, that's only one part of the puzzle. Investors want to see huge market opportunity. How are you going to expand overseas? How are you going to go into different markets and verticals? And they want to see something that will go to the moon. They want to see the highest reward, but for the lowest risk. So it has been extremely difficult for us. I mean, we've just about closed on our pre-seed round now, which has been a huge achievement. But this is something I thought I would have done, like finished like this time last year, maybe, or the end of 2023. But the legal process, it takes so long.
Yeah.
Investors have lots of different expectations, and sometimes the goalposts can move as well. It's like, okay, yeah, we're going for this deal, but then you start pushing them like, oh, wait, maybe you could, get some more customers, or you should have the product this bit further. So if you're in a position where you can't negotiate, that doesn't put you well in terms of how much equity you're giving away or how much cash they're willing to invest. So I've spoken to hundreds of investors, had hundreds of meetings. Like we're closing on a number now that hopefully we should be able to publicize in a few weeks. But there's been more like maybe like 150% of that number that we didn't get, and we were like this close. We're like was pulled out last minute, or some circumstances changed. So we were so close, but there's all these what ifs, but you can't dwell too much on the what ifs. It's so important for business or any high stress that you can't be worrying about what happened then or what might happen tomorrow. It's just focus on what is the best thing I can do today to push the business forward.
Yeah. How is it? How do you deal with all these negotiations? And there would be something like, some investors will be, you have pitched so many, you took effort to build that slide and everything, and then they were like, sorry.
Oh, they're like, yeah, tear you apart.
Yeah. How do you go about that? Like, okay, this happened. Let's say this happened with you, and then you have a second meeting with another investor, and you don't carry that emotional baggage in that meeting. So like,
Yeah.
Has it happened before?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, full disclosure, like before I came in for the podcast here, we got really bad news on some funding, and I was in the cars paying for parking. I was like,
Shit.
oh, this is going to be really bad. But I just have to say, right, deep breaths. Okay, I'm going to go talk to Tana, and I'm going to have a good time. So there's a lot of mental resilience. And to me, like something I learned over COVID, which was so critical for the business, was I got really into yoga and mindfulness. And you can learn so much from that, and just, okay, accepting, the present moment, saying, okay, that happened. What can I learn from that to take to the next thing? And that's been super powerful for me, honestly. But, you have to take each investor's perspective with a pinch of salt, because someone could say, I mean, for example, someone said, "Oh, you've no idea about the size of the market." Whereas I was trying to explain to him, okay, we're starting off in sports. There are 300,000 professional sports teams. The sports analytics market is worth 16 billion. It's growing 30%. But we want to go into physiotherapy. There are 600,000 physios. We want personal training. There are a million gyms. They said, "Oh, but you don't have a good focus on the market size and all this." But it's about communication as well. Sometimes they won't get what you're trying to say, but others, if you have a bit more time, they do. Because most of these investor meetings, they're 30 minutes. They're super busy people. They have like a filter list. Whereas, like there could have been one a few months ago, for example, where they say, "Okay, well, how many customers do you have?" We could say, "Oh, we have 3." And they're like, "Oh," and they just like write down 3. But I'm saying, well, we have 10 more that we're at demos with. They're using the product, that are playing in the Premier League. They're playing in the NBA. Like, because they haven't paid for it yet doesn't mean they're not close, because all of these coaches and physios for these professional teams, they are extremely time poor. They do not answer emails that they don't think are going to help them. They don't take video calls. They don't download and use products that they don't think are going to help their service. So there's a real communication point there to make sure that they understand where the business is now. And a good quote I got is, "Investors invest in lines and not dots." So if you just meet them once, they're going to say, "Okay, this is the business today." But if you start a relationship early and say, "Okay, this is me today," and then you meet them in 3 months, it's like, "Oh, this is what we achieved. This is what we're going to do next." You meet them in 6 months, and you're up here, they're like, "Oh, I see where this trajectory is going."
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to come to one question. So like I assume in this you need to make a lot of referrals to meet some investor, or to get into a big league and asking the team to use your product. So how? Okay, so the way I started, like I asked you for the podcast, and I was very nervous about like even DMing you. Should I text her or not? What would be the response? But in terms of referrals, you yourself would be sending so many cold DMs and all that. So how, like, is there any tip or something that just follow this and go on?
I mean, we've been focusing really strongly on inbound attraction. So some of the top teams that we're working with in the Premier League, in the NBA, the NFL, they found us through our LinkedIn and our website. So it was like a crazy moment. I saw lead physio for a Champions League winning team add me on LinkedIn. I was like, this must be fake. And so hopped into his DMs. I was like, "Hi, could we jump on a Zoom call? I'd love to know how you're measuring movement quality." He went on Zoom me. He was like out for a walk. He had his like club beanie hat and puffer jacket. I was like, "Oh my God." So putting yourself out there, making sure that your content it's finding the right people and it's super digestible. I mean, so SEO is super important. Like LinkedIn is a really great spot for us, because physios, coaches, they like to go to LinkedIn for their information. And, small things for me as well that have been cheap but worked out super well in terms of, building up a network, at least locally, is, I just pay €20 for a custom t-shirt. People see me at conferences, they like search up the company name. I've had people approach me saying, "Oh, I looked up your company. That sounds really cool. Let's go for a coffee." And then a good relationship could build from there. Or what I like to do as well at conferences is I have my business card, but I also have a sticker. And so I paperclip the sticker to the card. And when I'm leaving, I'm like, "Oh, here's my card, but also a free sticker." And they're like, "Oh, cool." People love like free stickers. And so there's been times where I've been in Dublin or somewhere, like a Dog Patch Labs, a startup up there, and I see people with like my company sticker on their laptop. I don't remember like meeting them, or did they get it from a friend? Or like, I give them to my friends, and I like put them in a bar, like on a hand dryer. I'm like, "Oh, there's my sticker." So it's like small kind of, I don't say like viral, but things like that just kind of build up the brand and your reputation. So it makes it easier then that if you cold DM someone, that they at least might have some awareness of, like your reputation and your brand, things like this.
Yeah, I would say for LinkedIn, you are spot on that. Like I see a lot of, "Oh yeah, Precision Sports is doing this. Emma is here at this con." That's okay, nice. That is really, I mean, because you have given the lecture in our during our batch during business analysis, and since then, like I have connected with you on LinkedIn, and I've seen every month like something is happening.
The hustle is real.
Yeah. And that makes, okay, that is really cool. Like I can feel that even though I'm not an investor or anything, but yeah, I can understand what's going on in their mind. So you're spot on with that. Just gonna come to that later on, but what are your takes on personal branding? Like we are discussing marketing, so
Oh yeah, like it is super important, and it's been a weird one for me because I said, oh, I never really associated myself with business as a teenager. I'd always kind of associate myself more as like left-wing socialist. I hated seeing like greed on Wall Street, like big oil, big pharma is like my enemy. So as I'm thinking, okay, I want to start a successful business, there's like almost a personal conflict there.
yeah,
But if I know, okay, if I'm building up my personal brand, the company brand, I know I want to build an ethical business. And if I just like keep that as the core values, I can carry like that brand through, because like working for a big corporate, there's no way I could bring authenticity into the brand if I know it's just some like, rich old white guy in America that's making like millions and millions.
Yeah.
Whereas I know, okay, we're building up this team, we're going to like make sure they're well rewarded, we're going to build a product that's going to help people. That means I can put my own personal brand into it. And people relate to people, not to companies necessarily. So, people think precision sports, think Emma, think precision sports. I just try to bring, integrity to those things, and it makes it easier then to me to just give it all my effort, not think, oh, I have to, separate me from the brand, because it's kind of impossible when you're a startup founder.
Yeah.
Like every moment, every day, unless I'm with my cat maybe, or I'm like trying to like check out the moons of Saturn in my telescope, I'm thinking about the business specifically.
Yeah, that's right. You usually get associated with that whenever you say Emma, and then it's precision sports and vice versa.
Yeah.
I was gonna avoid this one topic, but because you mentioned that you are into yoga and mindfulness, I'm gonna go into it. Do you believe in manifestation and all that, or it's a gray area?
Oh, I mean, like, I think there's definitely something to it, to be honest. Like, I don't believe in that, if you just wish for something, it's going to happen. I mean, there's a nice quote I like: the harder the work you look, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So if you have a goal, you can manifest it, but know, okay, what can I do today to get closer to that goal? If you just have the goal and you're making progress towards it, hopefully it should happen. I mean, there's certain things like, hearing about the grant not coming through before this call. I wasn't like necessarily manifesting, oh, I'm going to get this grant. Like I'm manifesting, okay, I want to get the business to this stage. It could take any number of different, paths
Routes,
to get there. So, like I definitely think there's something for it, but it's more about just having that personal goal and like the discipline to make sure that you are working towards it. If you just think, oh, I would love if an investor said, oh, do you want a million euros? Like that would be great, but no one's like, it's realistically like not going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. You need some goal. And what about like, do you practice meditation or
I mean, meditation is
just yoga?
I mean, like meditation is interesting because like to me the way I interpret it is just trying to be fully present in my body. So I may not necessarily just like sit in silence and meditate, but I might, sit outside and look at the stars and just, take deep breaths, or, it can take kind of different ways. Or even if I am doing yoga, I'm just trying to think fully in that moment. Same with even when I'm doing weightlifting as well, because I'm trying not to think of the business, because if I'm trying to lift 50 kilos over my head and I'm thinking about, oh, I have that meeting at 10 a.m., it's just not going to happen. So I have to make sure I'm fully present, focusing on my breath, thinking about my body. And so while it's not, strictly meditation, you're sitting there in silence, to me it is a meditative process, which helps me to, be more present and focused and productive than the rest of the time.
You do a lot in a day, say gym.
Yeah.
How do you have okay, I myself have OCD, so if it's like this, I'm gonna do it like that. So how do you stay organized with everything, and like with the perfectionism that I want this like that, and I don't like, this is the ballpark. I would say no if it is below that, but how do you manage that? I know it's
Oh yeah, like you have to be super flexible, because like historically I would have had some struggles with like that, in a sense. Like I would have had struggles around if I couldn't get my exercise routine done, or like I knew I had to go to a restaurant with friends I wasn't planning on. It's like, oh, that's not going to fit my exercise and diet routine for the week. I'd get anxiety, I'd freak out. That was something I had to spend a lot of time working on.
Mm.
That was before I started the business. So I had to learn about flexibility and thinking, look, just because you're having like, a crazy meal out with your friends doesn't mean that your whole, fitness goal is going to be destroyed
Yeah.
forever. There is value in spending time with your friends. And I ended up having arguments with people because they were trying to teach me this. And that was a real learning point for myself, because now, like for May and June, I was out of Galway, you know, like 2 or 3 days a week at least. I was up and down to Dublin, I was in London, I was in Austria at all these different
Yeah.
conferences and events. I wasn't going to get my full workout routine in, but I just knew I had to maximize what I could otherwise. So I was in a hotel, it's like, okay, I can still get up 20 minutes before I need to do some yoga and go, okay, I'm not getting my workout, but I can still try and make the most, because you have to be flexible, because sometimes meetings will come up. It's like, okay, I have to jump on this, or
Mhm.
something. It's like, okay, do you want to speak at this conference in London in 2 weeks? It's like, oh, but I had a design meeting with the engineering team that I'd like. It's like, look, the engineering team, we can readjust that. It's fine. So that's a huge part of being an entrepreneur, is just trying to be flexible, because the wind is going to change directions
Yeah.
constantly. So it's just knowing, okay, when do I have to like bend, and when can I say, okay, no, I can't make this meeting today. Sorry, could we do Monday instead? Something like that.
Yeah. With respect to, I'll just go back in time. With respect, when you're working full time
Mm.
and you have some sort of idea that, okay, I have to work on this one. Would you recommend, like, okay, what would you do differently if, like, would you still go for the full time job? Maybe it will give you the experience, or you'll still go all in the business straight out of college.
If I had to give a recommendation, I would say that the industry experience is like super important for that sense. Yes, get the experience, because for me in university, yes, I did some projects. They were good, but they had nothing to do with the scale of large engineering systems. I got exposed to, a team of 10,000 engineers working on a huge platform. We worried about reliability, security, what happens if a service goes down, who's
Mm.
on call, the determination that you can't just say, oh, that's a bug, it's fine, we sweep it under the carpet. That doesn't happen in
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
corporation. It's like, okay, this is a bug. You could be weeks trying to figure out, you know, why is there a bug? And there's no such thing as, oh, it's
Just
fine,
leave
we'll
it.
leave
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it has to eventually get done, and there is an engineering way to get there. So that was pretty inspiring for me, thinking, okay, like it's only code, it's
Yeah.
like we can actually do this. Yes, there are some other industries that are more complex, like so that has like physical limitations. We're looking at the world of quantum now, things like this. There
Mm.
are physical boundaries. Space travel.
Yeah.
There are a lot more difficult problems in those spaces than just software. Code will
Coding. Yeah.
fix it. So that was critically important for me, and to understand, okay, how do customer specifications come in? How do you prioritize business requests? So that was critical, but also the financial aspect as well, because, like I
Mm.
don't come from a wealthy family. I couldn't say, oh yeah, I'm not going to work. How do you
How
pay the
to
bills? How
yeah,
do you
exactly.
pay rent and things? So yeah, it was important for me to build up some savings, so I knew, okay, I have the capacity to go for this as hard as I can, and if it doesn't work out, fine, I can get a job again in industry, because at least I have some industry experience as well, and it
Yeah.
makes you more creditable to investors as well, because people love the prodigy story of, oh, they dropped out of college like Bill Gates or whoever to build this
Started.
company,
Yeah.
but they're very much far outliers. Investors like to see that you have some industry experience, and with potential customers, it gives you more merit as well for them, because back to that personal brand aspect and marketing,
Hmm.
I'm constantly selling to investors and to customers.
Yep.
So I have to build up the reputation to both
Both.
those
Mm.
audiences.
That's that's so many, so much information actually. Is there any, like, uh one thing you would go back in time and just change that, some mistake or something like that?
So, I mean, This might sound super cheesy, but probably not, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, like for me, I've tried to make sure that I like put my best foot forward with everything, and there is a balance to strike between moving too fast or too slowly. So I think most decisions I've made have been at that right pace, but that's because of really good mentors and advisors. If I have a difficult problem, like, oh, I'm looking to hire this person, I talk to 3 or 4 people, and they may give very different opinions, but then as the entrepreneur, you have to, take all those opinions and then, okay, follow your heart and your head, and okay, this should be the path to go. Like there's some things that ended up being mistakes, but I don't think I could have known at the time. It was only from the experience I learned, okay, that happened. I know now how I can prevent this in the future. So I think that goes back to that whole mindfulness aspect. It's like, okay, don't worry about regrets, just learn and come on to the next thing.
That's good attitude actually. Yeah. Well, any what's a growth plan or future plans?
Okay, so Precision Sports Technology, we have launched our V1 product specifically for physiotherapists, strength conditioning coaches, and sports scientists to accurately, objectively, and instantly measure athlete movement quality. So V1 is out there. We have the product on the market, and we have customers in the UK, Portugal, and India.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay. that was nice.
That was so unexpected, but a great result for us.
Is it only for the physios?
Yeah. So our customer in India, Ankit, he's our guy over there. He's amazing. He works in university and owns a physio clinic. So he is like our guy in India. He's fantastic. So our growth plan now is we're going to build out V2 this year to allow the athletes and the patients to log their own movements and get their metrics over time. We're going to be raising our seed funding towards the end of this year to fund our expansion into the United States, which is by far the biggest market for sports in particular. So we want to access, the NBA, the NFL, universities. The budgets for sports and universities in the US is crazy. It's like more than a lot of professional teams in Europe. It's just bananas. So that's going to take a lot of money and time to get there. So 2025 is very much US focused. But following this, then the real growth plan for V3, then the real-time feedback aspect, we want to target a huge range of other markets. Like, okay, let's nail sports, but then I see by far the biggest potential for this product in physiotherapy to help people get the best treatment remotely, and for gym fitness, anyone who wants to get the best weights training, they can have technology to help them. So that's the growth plan. So we'll just do one day at a time and see manifest.
That's cool. I think that's it. Do you want send any final thoughts? Just closing thoughts or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was great to talk to you today, Tammy. So thanks for having me. And I suppose a call out for any of your listeners and viewers would be, if you're interested in learning more about our technology, whether that's from a customer point of view, partnerships, we're looking to partner with existing providers for fitness, physiotherapy, sports, for collaborations, API. Would love to speak. And of course, as well, if you would be interested in joining our seed round, if you want to put in minimum 10,000 euros, let me know. We can see if we can get you in on our next deal.
Okay. Hopefully you get whatever you're manifesting for. And well, I'm waiting for the V3 version because that is the one which I will be directly using as a beginner. Well, I'm not beginner, but it will be really handy. It's just throw in, okay, today I want to do push, and you just put it there and it will monitor everything.
Exactly. I mean, what we want to be is Strava for weightlifting. So essentially, like what I'm manifesting is what does a gym look like in 10 years' time? You go in, you have your program, whether that's AI generated by your coach. It says, oh, welcome, Tanmay. Today you're doing legs. First up is back squats. Okay, warm up 30 kilos on the bar. You do your 10 reps. It says, okay, 8th rep, you didn't activate your core there. Let's do better next time. And afterwards, you get your scores on how good your sets were, as well as the weight. You can share your PBs with your friends, all automated. And then it's like, okay, maybe your knee was moving funny today. Maybe we can refer you to this physiotherapist or this specialist, whether they are here in Ireland or in India or in Argentina or something. You can get the best person. So to me, that's the vision that I see, and that's what I want to bring to this.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I mean, I would definitely go for it. Thank you so much for your time, and hope to have another podcast maybe after the seed round.
Hopefully, yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
keep
Thank you
going.
so much for coming here.
No
Thanks.
problem, Tanmay. Thank you.